terrible, Karen.
AIDS is a disease that affects the immune system. It started out, I think it's been around more than before 1950s. It's comes from the 1950s or even earlier, but nobody knew that it was AIDS. The AIDS virus, what is the AIDS? The AIDS virus is a lentivirus that has a period of incubation, 15 years, when the time it infects the body to when it actually develops symptoms. And so when it comes in the body, the immune system doesn't detect it, so it can do all its business without being detected. This is the AIDS virus. AIDS virus, okay? Virus. With RNA, which is ribonucleic acid. Erase digestion. What? Erase digestion. And this is a lymphocyte. Did you say lymphocyte? Lymphocyte? Lymphocyte.
Lymphocyte.
Lymphocyte cell. That, lymphocyte is like the immune system of the person with its nucleus. And the little virus moves along and sticks with this protein outwards to the cell, and then it goes inside the cell, and it releases its RNA, and it mixes with its DNA. Its DNA, which is deoxyribonucleic acid. And this DNA mixes with the cell's nucleus DNA, so it programs the lymphocytes to produce little viruses that come up on the other side. So it programs the immune system of the person to reproduce those viruses, so the person can never defend himself. Okay, what else is there to say?
How long does it take for it to actually start showing side effects? Because I've heard people can have it.
That's what I said. Incubation period is 15 years. About 15 years, and I think people have lasted about 10 years with AIDS.
I mean, there are two different kind of people.
Yeah, that's right. There's the people that have the virus, but they don't have the disease yet. They just can transmit it to other people. And there are people that are infected with it that have the disease, that are sick from it.
Well, isn't there benign and the other one of AIDS also just like cancer?
Actually, a great deal is still unknown about the particular. It's called the human immunodeficiency virus, or the HIV virus.
And if you have HIV, it doesn't mean that you have AIDS.
No, that means that you have been exposed because your body will produce the antibodies in the typical antigen, antibody, or antigen-anticorps reaction. But all it means is exposure. It doesn't necessarily mean you get the disease. Unfortunately, we still don't know how long it takes. They say 15 years. You could be exposed to the virus and you can develop it within 6 months or even less.
And you can die from it in even less.
Yes, it could, from the first symptom of the disease, you can die instantaneously or it can drag on. Very few people have, I shouldn't say 10 years. I don't think anybody has lasted more than 5 years so far. But the average length right now is generally wears from 1 to 3 years once you've been started to get the disease.
Ryan White was 12 years old and he didn't die until 18.
He's not average.
And why is what?
He was he had an 11 or something like that, 11, 12, and he didn't die until 18.
Yeah, but he said that the average.
That was the average of, he got it at 11, 12, he died at 18, that's 7 years. Who are you talking about?
Ryan White, who got, Ryan, you didn't hear about Ryan?
Right, yeah, that's true,
But Michelle, he's talking about...
He just died 2 weeks ago, was he? Actually, he was a lot like 14.
No, he was 18.
And he got it when...
About 14 or 13.
I think he got it. He got it through a blood transfusion.
He was in hemophilic. And,
okay.
And, hemophilia, is to say?
The disease is called hemophilia. And the individual who has it is always a man.
Always the men.
Very rare, the sex-linked gene, which very, very seldom affects the female. It generally passes from the female to the male, though. It's called a hemophiliac.
Hemophiliac.
Inability to produce a blood clot.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, when you have a cut, you can't stop bleeding. So he got lots of blood transfusion, and it was one of those times where they didn't realize that it was AIDS, so we got, so we just get out of there.
It was before they had a test for the antibiotics.
Yeah, exactly. And
How do they treat AIDS now?
there's a thing called AZT that what it does is it sort of like destroys, doesn't destroy, but it stops the virus from reproducing. So it just like puts off the effect, but it doesn't like, I guess that a person with AIDS could survive if they were in an air bubble with purified air, because people who have AIDS just die of like little common colds. Because the immune system can't defend itself.
Well, that's the common cold.
What?
Not so much the common cold, but pneumonia like cold. They die from diseases that you and I would probably be able to fight off without any problem. A simple
Pneumonia.
pneumonia, well, no, I don't want to talk about pneumonia. Pneumonia isn't simple. Sometimes an infection like athlete's feet. It's basically an infection caused by a fungus.
Yeah.
To you and I, we have it. It could be annoying. We can take the proper, like potassium benign medication. It can go away. It can come back again. It can come away again. But what it is, somebody who has AIDS, this now becomes overblown. And instead of having just athlete's feet between the
get it all over
toes,
your body.
it'll all spread throughout the whole body. Now, that would be one.
Do they ampute the feet?
Well, then again, well, you know, if you take the foot off, then how much, you know, what if another infection comes by?
Oh, they check out.
Now, look at it this way. It's affecting people who are already past their teenage years. Now, remember, when you're a teenager, yeah, most of the time it's affecting, except for hemophiliacs.
And also babies that are born from
Babies who are born
AIDS
from
addiction
contaminated
parents.
mothers.
Yeah.
And there's the problem is because babies
Yeah, because
are born basically
AIDS
without
is
an
not
immune
a
system to
drug.
begin with.
No, AIDS
When you
addiction
were
parents,
born,
because they
you don't
use
have an
syringes and they
immune
get AIDS from the
So you have no ability to produce one, it can destroy it. Now, where the difficulty comes from, maybe I can explain it this way. The AIDS virus is, as you pointed out, a virus that contains basically RNA. There's two types of viruses. Remember, viruses are not cells. No.
Viruses cannot live outside of the living body.
Right, there's the DNA virus
The RNA virus.
and the RNA virus. We have found out through science that the RNA virus is the more
Fatal one?
lethal of the two. Now, one of the reasons being is that when the DNA virus enters the cell, it will use the cells, literally what we will call the machinery, or to make
Little viruses.
more DNA.
And this one just
Viruses.
literally programmed by it.
And this one, because it's RNA, goes by, it does the same thing, it eventually makes more DNA, but it has to do it by a roundabout way. This person has to destroy the ability to make DNA, and so it takes over the cell's use of DNA to make more of the RNA. It seems to go not directly, but more like a indirect route in order before you finally get to making
So it's just,
more
that
of the
makes more
same.
damage.
It does more damage in the long run. They are the worst. For example, a common DNA virus would be influenza, the flu virus. You get sick, you get over it, no problem. Measles would be a common DNA virus. But the RNA viruses, I can't think of a really bad one offhand, aside from AIDS, but there are a few that are really bad because they're hard to destroy. Now, what it is, why you can get it, you can be infected with it and it stays in one cell and just stays there. It doesn't go away.
But it doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do anything. This is very typical of any virus.
That's the incubation period.
That could be the incubation period, but now the question is, like any other virus, once it gets into the cell, what will trigger it? What causes it to suddenly start replicating?
Well, let's
Okay. When a virus enters the cell, the classic virus will then use the cell machinery to make more of the virus. But they don't always do that. Some viruses enter a cell and they just stay there. When the cell divides, the new cell now contains the virus. So you can have this virus for many, many years.
The whole body's mental cells that contain the virus.
Not necessarily the whole body, but certain cells, because the AIDS virus seems to affect one particular gland in the body.
No, two. It also affects brain cells. I heard. That's what I read.
There's another theory that possibly the AIDS virus and the Alzheimer's disease are similar viruses because they both have the effect on the brain
Memory.
the same way.
When you have AIDS, could you start forgetting things?
No. Some cases of AIDS have affected the brain where there is, just like Alzheimer's disease, a total degeneration. First, the inability to move the body. The nerves break down so you are basically paralyzed. Then it starts affecting the brain where you don't remember things. Alzheimer's disease is mainly a disease of the elderly people, in which they can't do anything. They're living vegetables. They can't think. They have to be fed. Well, that's what,
It's not funny,
It really isn't, but
It's funny.
it's mainly elderly people. Now, the AIDS people who get it in the brain, they have the exact same effects. They also, just like elderly people, they suddenly become, like you put them in a chair, and unless you move them, they can't get off the chair. They have lost the ability to move, they have lost the ability to think, and unless you're with them all the time, they don't know. It's sort of like senility with very elderly people. I don't think my grandmother had Alzheimer's disease, but she died at 90. She lied about her age, so we're not too sure. She said she died at either 92 or 94. But if you weren't with her on a daily basis, she didn't know who you were. Even her own children, she would forget, unless that one person was with you all the time, because they have no ability. Unfortunately, when AIDS attacks the brain cells, it does the same thing. The individual will actually forget who you are, except the person who's taking care of him or her all the time. But most of the time, it affects mainly the thymus gland, which is located right about here.
And
And it's one of the main.
some under the organs?
Oh, now, the lymphocytes are the cells that come from either the lymph nodes, which you have under the arms, behind the ears, around the genital area. And you also have, but you'll notice that these lymph nodes are located near all the vital organs of the body: the heart, the brain, the whole throat area, down through the lungs, the kidneys, and into the reproductive organs. All the other possibilities, they can come from this is bone marrow. I finally figured that one out. And, that's what Moelle or Suze is. Kind of this word, bone.
Oh, this is bone.
I had a dog one time. I give her a milk bone. It was written in French. I don't remember if it was an OS, but that's okay. Anyway, if it affects the thymus gland, is the main gland in the body that is producing antibodies. You have these lymph nodes all over your body that are producing antibodies. The thymus gland is the main one, and that's what this virus does. It affects this gland, thereby preventing these cells from producing antibodies to fight off other diseases. Now, chances are, if the individual has antibodies in his or her body from previous exposure to other diseases, they may not be affected. But what do you do when you get all these new diseases? And the worst one, of course, is pneumonia, because that's affecting the lungs.
So if you get AIDS and you're not already immune to it.
You know what I'm saying? Let's say you had measles as a child.
Yeah.
And you're immune to it. You now have antibodies in your system for measles.
Yeah.
You may have had chicken pox as a child.
Yeah.
You had a flu a few years ago. Now you suddenly